Around November last year, Apple shook up the tech world with the announcement of their first MacBook with their own CPU called the Apple M1. Since then, I've been spending some time with it, and here's what I've found. Starting with the design, once again they've proved themselves to be the kings of minimalism. It's got a matte metallic finish with a shiny Apple logo in the middle. Open it up and it's got one of the cleanest designs on a laptop. Starting with a fully glass panel, which we'll get to later, and then a very flat, backlit keyboard where they've also managed to fit in the power button, which doubles up as a fingerprint scanner too. Like all MacBooks, it's got the classic Tappy Tapness on the keyboard. They've put two speakers on each side rather than having one big one at the top, and I actually prefer it that way. At the bottom, you've got a rather unique trackpad. There's no outline buttons, so you can click anywhere. It's quite a large one too, so you can comfortably use all of the swiping shortcuts. The laptop itself is insanely slim and light, measuring in at just 0.6 inches thick and with a weight of just 1.29 kilos. However, the MacBook's diet plan to maintain this figure involves cutting down on ports, which I'm not so happy with. You get two USB-C ports on one side and a headphone jack on the other. And that's it. On one hand, it's easier to connect a wide range of devices such as monitors and smartphones with just one cable. But when it comes to hard drives and other devices which need an adapter, the MacBook doesn't play well. It doesn't recognize my phone at all, doesn't agree with some memory sticks, and fails to open half the files on the hard drives it connects to. At first, I thought it was the adapter's fault. But it works well with my dad's Surface and all of my phones, so the laptop itself probably doesn't agree with the adapter. And at this price point, I shouldn't have to faff around like this. The screen is one of my favourite parts of this laptop. It's a 13-inch 2K LED panel, and they've nailed pretty much every aspect of the display. The contrast and saturation are the best I've seen on any laptop. The colours are almost identical to those on my phone, which is great news for content creators whose audience is on social media. The 2K resolution means you get a sharper visual experience. On its own, you won't notice the upgrade, but against a 1080p panel, you'll definitely be able to tell. A lot of YouTube videos are in 2K, and for any retro gamers out there, you'll be happy to know that Dolphin Emulator supports 2K as well, so you can take full advantage of that. I would say the aspect ratio is a little odd at 16:10, which means you get some serious letterboxing with ultra-wide movies and some noticeable black bars even with most 16:9 content. That's not a deal breaker at all, but it's just something I've noticed over the past few months. I have to admit, I'm a sucker for a glass panel. They just have that premium look and feel which I adore. The screen does have some bezels all around, but they don't look out of place, so it's not an issue. On the whole, it's the best screen I've seen on a laptop. Well done Apple, you hit the spot with this one. The audio is quite an underrated feature, and it's actually one of the best things about this laptop. With most laptops, you'd have the speakers above the keyboard or they'll be hidden somewhere. But with the MacBook, you've got dual speakers along the sides instead. And I gotta say, it's miles better. You're getting much richer and clearer audio, and because they're stereo speakers, the sound is way more immersive as well. On most laptops, I found the audio to be quite muffled and tinny at times, so the MacBook brings a refreshing change. Just for a quick comparison, I'm gonna put this Thinkpad up against the MacBook, each at 50% volume.
I'm with a hunter. I got myself and my honor. I'll never sell my soul or none of my pride, which is stand oh. Stevie Wonder, I see no drama. Doing up gigs, sure, like I'm a cut above them. I'm a good partner, still giving thanks though. Rude kid music. This in a cell, I'm with a hunter. I got myself and my honor. I'll never sell my soul or none of my pride, which is stand oh. Stevie Wonder, I see no drama. Doing up gigs, sure, like I'm a cut above them. I'm a good partner, still give him thanks though.
Now what most of you have been waiting for, the performance. On board, we've got Apple's crown jewel, the M1 chip, paired with 8GB of RAM. We have to remember that it's a whole new CPU architecture, one of the first of its kind. I couldn't just throw some benchmark numbers and just leave it at that, so I put it through the 4 horsemen CPU test. And you might be wondering what that is. The 4 horsemen refer to 4 of the most demanding yet commonly used applications available. These 4 apps were Google Chrome, Luminar 4, DaVinci Resolve, and Dolphin Emulator. The aim of this test is to run these apps at full capacity to see how the laptop holds up. Starting with Google Chrome, I opened 20 of the most resource-hungry, ad-infested websites, starting with 5 news sites, then 5 Indian recipe sites, 5 fandom wiki sites, and then 5 videos on YouTube showing Japan in 4K HDR. From all this, we got a little hang, but nothing over a few seconds. Then we moved on to the second application, Luminar 4. Here I opened 5 12MP raw image files and then proceeded to make all kinds of edits on them. And again, there was a little lag, but no noticeable hang. Moving on to the third application, DaVinci Resolve. Here I put a few HD recordings together and exported the whole thing in 4K. Initially, it did struggle to give some sort of estimated export time, but it stabilized and gave a projection of around 20 minutes, which is quite impressive given the current workload from the other 2 apps as well. When I switched back to the other programs, it froze for a while, but then it managed to recover eventually. For the final program, Dolphin Emulator, I went into the graphics settings and turned up the enhancements to the max and the resolution to 4K. That isn't the max resolution, but realistically speaking, very few people will be inclined to go further than that, so I left it at 4K. I had absolutely no expectations. To be honest, I was surprised nothing crashed in the background. Again, the MacBook prevailed and I managed to get an average of 24 FPS, which isn't ideal, but it's still playable, and quite astonishing given the absolute hell it's going through right now. So, at the end of it all, it passed the crash test, delivered an estimated 20 minutes for exporting a 4K video, and maintained an average of 24 frames per second for a 4K Wii game emulation. That pretty much confirms this chipset as a multitasking god. For less intensive, normal use cases, it absolutely flies. Not once have I had to worry about closing programs to make it faster, or even open Task Manager. And you will probably never see the beach ball of doom either, even for intensive use cases. When I didn't have so much going on in the background, I could get 60 FPS at 2K resolution on any game in Dolphin Emulator. Plus the MacBook supports the latest Xbox and PlayStation controllers, so you can easily use this as a retro gaming console. Whilst the power is staggering, the power efficiency is equally insane. Over a month of light use, such as content writing, movie watching and web browsing, I've only had to charge it 3 times, and I haven't switched it off at all. There's no hassle of having to close programs so that they don't eat up your battery in the background. Just close the lid and live your life. I've kept it on sleep for a week and I haven't noticed a drop in battery life at all. The added bonus is that it makes it a better laptop in general. The whole point of a laptop is to have the functionality of a PC and to be able to take it with you, ergo, a portable computer. And this is as portable as it gets. I could take this on long road trips and not even care if I've forgotten my charger. The benefits of an alternative, more power efficient architecture are amazing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Windows come up with. Coming to the software, it's really fun because it's macOS, but it's also really frustrating
Because it's macOS. Let me explain.
So first off, it's very similar to iOS. The icons, the dock, the notifications, and now even the widgets are identical to those on iPhones.
Personally, I love it. iOS has always been visually appealing.
And they've added the widgets in a way that actually make them useful, as opposed to just an add-on which you can easily ignore. They've also added a simple yet powerful search tool called Spotlight Search, which makes navigating the file system a little easier. It's also the smoothest OS I've ever used. I've never been stuck on loading icons or blank screens, and it's got this bouncy feelings to the transitions, which extend to individual apps too. Even simple web browsing has the bounciness. Plus, the gesture controls are very easy to pick up and I can't stop using them. I've got like 4 different desktops just because it's so fun to organize everything and scroll through it. And the gestures work inside different applications as well. Another highlight of BigSur is that quite a few iPhone and iPad apps have migrated over, adding to a good collection of apps already on the Mac store, which includes a lot of social media apps. Out of the popular ones, I use WeChat, Twitter, WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. This integration means that I can easily chuck my phone to the other end of the room and open up my laptop knowing that if someone needs to reach me, then they can.
The apps themselves work brilliantly.
All the notifications come through without spamming my screen all at once. And the interface looks incredible.
A lot of apps aren't fully native to the M1, but Apple uses their own emulation software called Rosetta, and it does the job seamlessly. If the pop-up didn't tell me it was using emulation software, I honestly wouldn't have guessed. But it's not all rainbows and ponies.
On Windows, if you want to open your main user folder, just click File Explorer and find your name in the sidebar here. On the Mac, open up Finder and you'll find a random selection of folders which it thinks you like, and some pretty colours. You're welcome.
If the file you need isn't in one of these folders, then God help you.
Nah, I'm only kidding. Just search your name in Spotlight Search or go to your Downloads folder and right click on the title to find it.
It's such a non-intuitive method for such a simple task. Another fairly niche problem is the general lack of some programs. I used to use Serif Draw Plus and VSDC Video Editor quite a lot, and they're not available on the MacBook at all. Granted, there are some great alternatives available on the Mac, but I would have liked to use my old apps while I transitioned to the new ones. Also, the files used by Serif Draw Plus aren't readable by any other program. I understand this is predominantly a Serif Draw Plus issue, but it's quite jarring to have to manually recreate all my graphics on a newer software. 95% of you watching will probably never run into this issue, but for those of you who use older software, I'd say have a quick double check on Google to make sure it's on the Mac. Whilst that may be a rare inconvenience, there's a much bigger issue with the Apple ecosystem: gaming.
There's a severe lack of games on Mac. When I went on Steam, the only popular title was Football Manager.
When I told my mates about this issue, the most common response was, well, it's a Mac, get used to it. Again, at this price point, I shouldn't have to. Plus, this adds insult to injury in 2 ways. Firstly, as we saw with Dolphin Emulator, the MacBook is actually great for gaming.
It's got a processor that can run games at full speed and max resolution, and the screen's so sharp you can actually appreciate the enhanced graphics.
So it's absolutely gutting to see that you can't play your favorite games that would have run so well.
Secondly, on the website, there's a whole section about the 8-core GPU and 5 times faster graphics, which is all well and good.
But if you don't have any games available to enjoy this performance boost, then the claim starts to lose its value a little. So, is this the laptop for you? Well, the answer is yes, but also no. If you already have a MacBook and are looking for an upgrade, then I'd say go for it. This is the biggest upgrade Apple has dropped in years, and chances are you're probably used to the Apple ecosystem, so everything you use should already be on there or is coming very soon. Just have a quick double check. If you're a Windows user and are looking for an opportunity to hop over, then this may not be it. I mean, it's great for casual web browsing and light work, but if that's your use case, then my personal advice would be not to spend £1,000 on a laptop in the first place. Even if you're going to use it for video editing or any other intensive use cases, then I'd still recommend the Windows alternative, which is the Huawei MateBook 14. With this laptop, you've still got the same design benefits of the Mac, such as the slim and light metallic design, the 2K glass screen, and the fingerprint scanner, and you're also getting an equally fast chipset, double the RAM, and double the internal storage. And best of all, it's on Windows, so you've got that peace of mind that you can use any app or play any game you want, whenever you want. If you have a Windows laptop and an iPhone, then it's down to synchronization versus functionality, and that is completely your call. To sum up the MacBook, it's a great experience, but in some cases, it's not a complete one. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this. For now, that's T.I.A. out, and I'll see you later.